Hey there! Welcome to SkyGems Academy podcast. At SkyGems Academy, our vision is to build a community of new generation leaders with strong core values, high level of self-awareness, high self-worth, and passionate individuals who will give back to the community and the environment. We are focused on delivering high-quality blended online learning of 21st century life skills delivered and taught online, practiced and perfected offline. Our philosophy is to inspire, educate, and nurture. We work towards inspiring and igniting sparks. We listen, we coach, we fine-tune and accelerate the mastery of 21st century life skills for various age groups. Our blended learning programs are curated from the early years to above 60 years old, as we believe in providing high-quality, lifelong learning for everyone. SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1: How COVID-19 Transformed the Education Industry. We will take you inside the minds and behind the scenes of 40 exclusive leaders and educators in the education industry. We've interviewed 40 exclusive educators and leaders in the education industry worldwide, starting with China, where the pandemic initially started. You will hear from the leaders in the education industry sharing candidly their views on the possible changes that will take place in the education industry post-COVID-19. Be sure to tune in to SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1 to listen and learn from the amazing stories, experiences shared, challenges faced, and techniques used by educators in different cities and countries to adapt and overcome their challenges personally as well as professionally in their respective roles in the education industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, let's dive into SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1. Introducing to you our host, Alyssa.
Hey guys, it's Alyssa. Hope everyone is keeping well. SkyGems Academy Podcast is a passion project that my team and I kicked off in early 2020. As we are all facing the unprecedented events and experiences impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we find that there is an urgent need to unite the global community of educators and leaders to progress forward together. Our main objective is to create a platform for all global leaders and global communities to come together to document these historic moments for our future generations. SkyGems Academy Podcast is a platform for everyone from all around the world to share, listen, learn, communicate, collaborate, and come together to network and help one another to pull through this very challenging period that has impacted the global community. In each episode of SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1, How COVID-19 Transformed the Education Industry, you will find yourself immersed and engaged in in-depth discussions and thought leadership in various aspects of education, technology, humanity, diversity, disparity, and collaborations in the education space. Our distinguished speakers also shared interesting stories, techniques, information and experiences with regards to COVID-19 pandemic and its impact to each speaker and to the education industry. We trust that you will find great value, insights and learnings from our 40 exclusive speakers in each episode of SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1. We are very grateful and sincerely appreciate each and every one of you who has motivated us, encouraged us, contributed in your own very special ways, especially our 40 exclusive guest speakers from all around the world. A big thank you to all and a big shout out to all of you. I am pleased to introduce you to our passionate and distinguished guest speaker for SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1, Episode 5, Dike Felix O. Here's some key highlights of Felix's sterling track records. Dike Felix O is a lecturer at the University of Nigeria, NUSCA, and currently a researcher at Fudan University, Shanghai, China, where he is developing a model that explains how managers, policymakers, and researchers can use transformational learning to promote environmental sustainability practices among individuals and in different societies. Felix also has experience in educational test and assessment. For example, he had developed a manual for assessing psychomotor ICT, information and communication technology, competencies for Junior Secondary School 3, JS3 students in Enugu State, Nigeria. He is passionate about topics and educational contents that promotes critical thinking and pro-environmental behavior change for sustainability. Thank you, Felix, for all the hard work, the driver and inspiration behind all that you are doing. In his leisure time, Felix likes playing football, reading articles, and traveling. I quote and unquote Dike Felix. The world has moved on. The new normal is you have to flow with the change. You have to simply adapt. Now, let's tune in to SkyGems Academy podcast episode 5 for Dike Felix's podcast. Let's go. Today, we are very fortunate and very honored to have Mr. Dike Felix all the way from Nigeria, now in Shanghai, China, to introduce himself to you. Over to you, Felix. Welcome to the show.
All right, Alisa, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to your audience through the wonderful work you're doing. My name is Dike Felix. I'm a Nigerian. My early career in teaching and lecturing started actually in Nigeria. But over the years, I've moved to China, precisely in Shanghai, where I carry out my research activities. I still lecture in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I've, over quite some time, over years, taught many students, and I've had so many also interactions on topical issues revolving around education. And of course, many of them have been in conferences. So I'm very happy to speak to the audience, to talk to us this today about some of the issues that we'll be discussing. So thank you very much once again, Alisa.
Thank you, Felix. I really appreciate your time and your generosity in sharing your experiences and your knowledge as well as what you have seen so far. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Felix, I do understand that right now you are in Shanghai. I do understand that during the pandemic, when it first started off in China, you were also in Shanghai. Maybe it would be nice to really hear from you. How did it all started for you, and how do you feel about the whole COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, I had mixed feelings about the COVID-19. Actually, when the news first broke out, it was on the 31st, actually, of December last year. We saw in the local news about clusters of pneumonia cases that was reported in Wuhan, Hubei province. As at that time, it was okay and normal. We were still going about our normal businesses. Of course, being in the academia, we've read quite some reports coming out about a public concern about some cases being reported in hospitals, pneumonia that doctors don't really know what it is, and perhaps an effective medicine or therapy to cure the disease. So, but over time, the cases continue to increase, and I think it was on the 23rd of January when the World Health Organization declared the virus outbreak a public health concern, that many persons began to take very serious notice about the dangers that is being posed by this pandemic. And as at that time, it was still relatively okay and normal in Shanghai. Personally, I began to feel cautious because of the level of interventions and policies that the government, the Chinese government, put in place, putting the lockdown on Wuhan. Of course, you can imagine the outbreak must have been very serious to warrant such policy. So, as at that time, we also had noticed from various publications that we are coming up that this very virus is quite very tricky. One of the major challenges had been its ability to spread rapidly. It's very contagious, highly contagious. So it was a very serious concern. In Shanghai, I have been in Shanghai throughout the period of the pandemic. And in Shanghai, very few weeks later, we had, of course, the policy affected Shanghai. We had the lockdown as well.
Yes.
And we continue to follow both the local news and scientific publications in trying to understand what the disease, the pandemic is all about, and of course, how to react to issues concerning that. So it's been quite kind of a mixed feeling. But right now, I think the feeling is much more relaxed. People are getting back to their normal businesses, perhaps in China and in Shanghai, because we still hear of some cases even increasing in some countries, like in some African countries. Like in Nigeria, we still have the cases increasing. So this morning, we've recorded close to 7,000 cases. This was compared to about 5,000 cases we had last week. The curve, like we all know, for the pandemic is beginning to flatten for some very important countries, like in the US and even in Italy and in some European countries. We are seeing the spread beginning to take a slow tangent. So we are hopeful that perhaps in not very long from now, we'll begin to have very much positive news. So with this, the feeling is we are beginning to get more comfortable and less concerned, unlike it used to be when the emergency started, the virus broke out.
Yeah, it is really worrying initially, I believe, when you're in China, where it's all started off. And I'm sure China is actually well prepared now. Look at the situation in China now, right? I saw the news today. I think it's 0 cases for China, completely 0 now.
For some days now, it's been very perfect report about the new cases, especially in
Yes.
Wuhan, where the cases started. And of course, it's also very important to mention here that most of the cases we've seen recently in China had been cases of persons that came into China, and most of them have been in recent time. And it's not yet time to start celebrating 100% because the authorities are still watching closely to see if there will be any rebound or if there will be any setbacks, especially reports flying around in some unconfirmed cases about some persons that had tested positive before, but they later were cured and discharged, testing positive again. So these kind of issues need to be quite looked at, and the authorities are closely monitoring the situation. For example, here in Shanghai, in Fudan, international students are not yet fully allowed to start going back to their labs and to start integrating fully, although very many other aspects of business endeavors are now going back to their workplaces. But the authorities are closely watching to see if there will be any setback so that they can easily arrest the situation.
Yeah, so I think being cautious and careful is a good thing to do right now, due to the uncertainty of the situation.
Very important.
Yes, absolutely. What are the challenges or some of the challenges that you faced during this pandemic period, Felix?
I think one of the major challenges most teachers or researchers has faced during this pandemic had been the feeling that our social life is being taken away from us. This may be surprising to you, but to some persons, it's also a positive news. The fact that with the lockdown policy, movement and events are being restricted to only take place online. So this has been relatively a challenge. There were so many conferences I would have attended that were cancelled because of the challenge. Some of them are within China, some of them outside China. And of course, with this kind of policies, you will see slowdown in various economic activities and various economic sectors. But however, looking at research for me, because I'm, of course, a researcher, I think one of the challenges I also have come to realize with this is, I call it a tacit, and many workers or perhaps many professionals may not be aware of this, having to sit down at a spot to work for long hours. This has posed some kind of challenge with Maybe if you are not careful with your health status or perhaps with your cardiovascular system and stuffs like that, you may not really notice that you have the spine is taking a lot of weight, having to sit down on one spot for long hours, and the dangers it may also pose to the eyes, looking into a very bright system for also long hours. These are
Yes.
some of the tacit challenges that may not be appreciated at the immediate, but in the long run these challenges may begin to surface. So I am aware of this, and I try also to look at how to balance the situation. But apart from this, generally, it also has come with its positives, because I will tell you, Lisa, it's
Mm-hmm.
it curtailed some unnecessary outgoings.
That is true.
Okay, it curtailed some some unnecessary distractions,
Mm-hmm.
except the perhaps distractions you will have with your cell phone. So it gave a lot of researchers more time to
Yes.
be able to do some work. So it's both positive and negative. But on the challenge side, I think the second challenge about the dangers with health, yeah, maybe even more glaring than we may think of now. So I hope a lot of persons will take note of these very important points and make sure they balance their work with exercise, trying to go out from time to time, going outside to take a walk, or just climbing the staircase, or even just taking a fresh breath, and then you can come back and continue from where you stop.
It's important to have a fine balance between isolation and some self time, as well as beneficial for your health, right? I fully appreciate that. And what we're trying to do here, likewise, is the same. Try to balance that. But it's not easy, but it's doable. Yeah,
Yes.
perhaps good to hear from you, Felix. What do you do to adapt? And, how do you overcome those challenges? That'll be interesting to hear.
Okay, I've mentioned some of them. I think this period gave me more opportunity to read a lot about things that I have very limited knowledge. For example, having to read more books and having to also appreciate some other research findings by some other scientists around the world. And coping with the challenge has, the news we get from local media and from some credible international media outlets has been quite useful. There has been recently very rapid increase in the number of webinars that are being organized online.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the ways that we've been escaping burden or have been coping with the isolation policies. We have a lot of agencies and organizations that will want to have us participate in this program or in that program, most of them very educative. This has been one of the ways that we've been coping with the policy of isolation and the stay at home policy. And again, I would like to also give this tip. This may be a very interesting opportunity for a lot of, especially students, to take up an online program, especially online programs that are directly related to their career path. It could be some maybe program that are as simple as just learning Python if one is not very conversant with that already, or programming.
Yes.
And yes, and because we have a lot of time at home during this period. And of course, even though in some countries they are already relaxing the policies that persons can go out, but this is a very good opportunity to take advantage of the stay at home. If you can learn many, I think that will be fantastic. But at least being able to pick few courses that will really be directly beneficial to the person's career path, especially in the future, will be very, very important and very, very useful for the person. Some individuals can as well pick some good books to read and get more knowledge about things that they have limited knowledge about.
Definitely a good time to learn new things, challenge ourselves, and also do things that we couldn't used to do previously because of limited time. Now we have more time. I think you're right, Felix. I think learning, continuous learning, lifelong learning is a very important part that we have to continue to take positive and initiative to move forward on this. Thank you for
Yes,
highlighting it. Yeah.
yes, Alisa. I want to also chip in very,
Mm.
very quickly. I have some of my students that are already married with kids who call in
Mm.
and say, "Oh, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to spend good time with our children," and it's a very it's a lovely thing that we have parents having to sit at home and you have all the time to spend with your kids. Let these kids learn new things from you. I have a friend that called him from UK, and
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that, wow, this is a life changer for him because normally he lives at the suburb of London. He would normally travel 2 hours to his workplace, and he
Wow.
would spend 4 5 days at the heart of the city where his workplace is located, and would normally only go home during weekends because of the relatively higher cost of living at the
Yes.
city center. So he had been living like this for many years. But because of the lockdown, the company made a policy that you can actually work from home. And for him, he realized his children has been missing a lot from him because he had time to really speak with them, get to know them better, and they get to know they get to know their
Wow.
parents, get to know new things about their parents. And there are some things he will share. I never knew my child was this bright, or perhaps could be this expressive.
Mm.
But because the time had not been there, and
Mm.
if we had little time to go on vacation, we would normally choose places that are very, activity packed. Maybe
Yes.
can travel to another country to see some new environments. And of course, most times we spend even the vacation learning things about the nature than getting to learn intricate values and traits about our children. So this is very also useful opportunity for parents to spend time with their children. Very important.
Those are precious times and precious memories for
Yeah.
everyone. Well said. And thank you for sharing that story and experience that you had from your friend. Appreciate that. For yourself, Felix, what are the lessons that you learned during this period?
To be very frank, Franklin said, do not waste a useful crisis. One thing I've come to learn with this pandemic is the ability of man to innovate quickly in a very dire situation like this. You can imagine when we had the total lockdown on various at country levels,
Yes.
and of course, students were worried about their thesis, about their defense, about how can we reconcile a lot of the activities in school going on. But just suddenly we began to innovate. And today we are having our thesis defense online. So many schools have already adopted that practice. So the ability of man to really innovate quickly, given their situation, is very important. Do not underestimate the power of critical thinking and the ability of man to rise up to their challenges like this. This has been a very important lesson. And for me personally, I've learned that it is important to get comfortable with change.
Mm.
Initially, at the beginning of the pandemic, it wasn't easy having to change work schedule, working pattern, because normally I will wake up in the morning, take light shower, and at least do some 15 minutes walk before I will take the transport to my workplace. And of course, with this, you get some fresh air and exercise. So
Yes.
with the shift in the work routine, it was a little bit challenging and stressful, but I got used to the change. I discovered that with time, I even began to achieve more in terms of workload. Because whenever we have a shift or a change in our habitual activities, in things we normally do, because of the immediate change, our bodies will normally react to the discomfort that comes with change. But
Yes.
over time, the
Mm.
relaxes and the body adapts to these discomforts and will begin to become even more productive. So I'm learning to see change as normal or getting comfortable. I'll call it getting comfortable with change. It's very important. So this has been key. The sooner a person gets comfortable with change, there could be various levels or kinds of change. The sooner the person gets comfortable with this change, the better he will not lose a lot of time to some distractions and some stress that will culminate to unproductivity. So these are very important. And of course, this is also, it's very important to be able to deal with the mental stress that comes with this. Sometimes when we have a change in a situation that brings some level of uncertainty about the future, it brings some level of stress to the brain that you'll see a lot of students begin to complain, even begin to voice out these triplets, these tiny discomforts and stress beginning to manifest in actions. But be mindful of that. You better manage your mood and the emotions. So I think for me, it's been very, very interesting moment because initially it was stressful, but I found that over time that I became even more productive because I simply had to adapt to, staying, working from home and also meeting up with deadlines and targets. So it's been very, very also interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Embrace change. Yeah, Felix, I think that's what the key is. To all of us need to be aware that change is
Mm,
constant. We will be
mm,
uncomfortable to start off, but
mm.
the sooner we get comfortable, the better for all of us. And embrace
Exactly.
it. Embrace it.
Ex- Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And
You're welcome.
and for Felix, for yourself, in the education industry, how do you see the change will take place post COVID-19? I know there's changes already happening right now, but how would you see the future in education?
Alisa, I have to be very candid with you on this part, and I
Mm,
love to speak on this. We've never really appreciated how valuable visual learning
mhm,
could be to education and education sector. I've worked in education sector for relatively close to 15 years, starting from teaching as a secondary school teacher up till now. We've got used to having physical contact with our learners. However, the future belongs to those who will have mastery of using innovative online teaching platforms and various kinds of visual learning mediums. This is the future. I will give you two instances. Fudan University is one of the top ranked universities in China and in Asia. During the COVID, at the onset, as late February, most of the courses offered in the school had been on physical contact with very, very few, I think very limited courses where teachers will have to meet students online.
mm,
But as we speak today, the school has already integrated using online teaching methods simultaneously with the physical contact. Of course, right now, the physical contact is not happening because of COVID, but the policy has been made that even beyond for COVID, moving forward, it will now become a relatively permanent mode of teaching that
mm,
professors will integrate both the online teaching medium with the physical contact. Now, this is just one example to see how the COVID has really triggered this very important change in teaching methodology for the school. And in various universities around the world, we have this similar situation. Now, I do not have the right statistics, but between 30th of January till now, being May, we've had many online learning platforms beginning to gain popularity, and many of them also gaining a lot of patronage because learners simply have to adapt and cope with learning online. So, definitely beyond COVID, many learners must have got used to this method of teaching,
mm,
and it definitely will continue that way. One of the very interesting, very important aspect of online teaching is it gives the teachers the opportunity to really be able to manage their time comfortably in a systematic manner because perhaps you don't have to worry about much of classroom management techniques and perhaps to spend more time trying to manage physical contact or perhaps some of the activities that maybe might have been happening physically in a classroom. So the lectures are usually, it gives the teacher more room to be able to give out contents that they have. So I think the future is, of course, the physical contact. But when we look at education at basic level, at lower level, at secondary school level, and early childhood education, this is where we have challenge because the children need to develop not only on their cognitive areas of child development, they also need to develop emotionally. And these aspects of very important domains of learning usually are better managed on physical interactions and having physical contacts with tutors and teachers. Having said this, like I said before, science has not stopped innovating. Perhaps we'll have an innovation that will be able to provide some solace in kind of providing empathy and some good values that will make up for the absence of physical contact. If it will be extremely necessary in future for children or for learners at this level. But like I say, responding to your question, Alisa, I think the future of education is actually going to be in using visual learning classrooms, using online learning platforms. We have quite a number of them, and some of them have become quite very popular these days. So this is what I am projecting. I personally am seeing the future of education in this dimension. And I think it will be very, very wise, especially young learners, to take advantage of this situation, to get themselves equipped with advanced skills on how to either teach or enhance their learning capacities online, or be able to organize some kind of online learning mediums and platforms for their peers and also for perhaps their friends.
Wow, the future of online education moving forward is going to be massive. And also, we do have to remember, as you said, the visualization part and also the personal touch are equally important. Is also, again, fine balance between these two, how to make it a success for everyone.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Felix. What would your new normal be? Would there be a new normal for yourself?
Definitely. Just like I mentioned.
Yes.
I think it will be very living in the past for anybody to think that we are going to get back to how things used to be. The world has moved on. The new normal is you have to flow with the change. You have to simply adapt. Like I mentioned, most of us have taken to teaching online. What we used to do on face-to-face interaction with students, we now do them online. Normally, we need to begin to also get students to develop confidence and be able to adapt quickly with this mode of contact with their tutors, their supervisors, and their teachers. And so for me, I've already adapted so much. I'm having to do my research and interact with my students using various online media platforms. Does this have some impact with the practical experiments and perhaps the aspects of research that may involve physical contact? I think perhaps minimally, but most of the things that can happen in physical contact can be done using simulations. We are also looking at this, using media simulations, simulating everything you like to do on the system first, so that you have to minimize contact. And of course, like I always am optimistic that there may be some new inventions on even how to get to do some of these things better that may not necessarily involve physical contact, either with the materials that you need to use, or perhaps if it is individuals that will be involved in research. So this is, of course, a new normal, and we'll have to live with this moving forward.
Well, thank you for sharing your new normal to all of us, Felix. Really appreciate that. And this is, I think, a very important part of the episode today. We would actually love to know, what would your message or messages be for the future generations? They will all benefit from your advice for sure.
I would like to say 3 things. The first is We need to maintain a positive mindset with every circumstance and situation that perhaps the post-COVID will present. A positive mindset is extremely important in overcoming perceived challenges that we may even still face in the future. For example, if we start getting a lot of students complaining more about lack of physical contact with perhaps their teachers, and we start seeing drops or achievements on students' part beginning to drop down, we may have to maintain positive mindsets and look forward to innovative solutions rather than looking backward, being pessimistic about that.
Yeah.
So on the part of students, it's also very important because at least I tell you, some students will come out stronger from the impact of COVID, while some students may come out affected more on the negative side, coming out from COVID. So this is very important. Maintain a positive mindset. When you maintain a positive mindset about the situation, predisposes the person to be more productive,
Yeah.
So you will face less stress and you'll be more open to embrace innovative solutions that may be available. So this is number one. Number two, embrace change. Embrace change and get familiar with numerous visual online both learning and teaching techniques that are available. If you go online, there are so many that has been shared by WHO, and I think I saw a lot shared by Harvard University on some of the free programs they even offer to students, and some of them are subscribed programs. So students can take advantage of this and equip themselves with better skills, because I do not envisage the world going back to more contact in terms of education moving forward. So it will be to be on the safe side for students to take advantage of this period to equip themselves with advanced skills that they will not have challenges handling some of the softwares, or perhaps getting comfortable with the online media platforms to learn and also to interact, which is very important. One aspect of learning that's been very, very useful is students having interactions, discussions, and sharing knowledge and information. For instance, we do see a lot of times students who hang around cafe shops to discuss on perhaps assignments or to discuss on some topics. But with the COVID, these aspects of their lives have been taken away from them. So they can think of how to still organize these interactions online and still be able to leverage the medium to share information and be able to solve problems. So this is the second take. Then I think for especially researchers, I think this could be a very important opportunity to look at new and perhaps better ways to engage learners, because as we seem to have focused on what the learners could do, a lot of teachers may not be aware that learners are finding this a new situation, a new challenge. So they have to bear with them. They have to be a little bit more patient to know that some of the learners may not be dealing with the situation the best way, or perhaps may not be at their best. I have a student that normally you will not miss deadlines, but because of the COVID, he has been having challenges meeting some set deadlines to cover some tasks. And of course, while it's not useful to use the COVID as an excuse for laxity, teachers will try to also understand that learners may have a little bit more challenge or less resource as they used to have. So this is also very important for teachers to be aware and to take cognizance of that, because sometimes when you put a lot of pressure on students, instead of becoming more productive, they may begin to retrogress. They may become even less productive. So this is very important to look at. I believe various authorities, various agencies, and some governments are doing their best at this level to tackle the pandemic. It is also very important we do the needful in adhering to local authorities, trying to support programs that are being dished out locally that the government believes will help to curb the situation. So these are very important things. I think we all need to be watchful and to take hope.
Wow, thank you, Felix, for giving such a wonderful message and messages to the younger generations, the future generations to come, as to how we should embrace change, how we should have a positive mindset, and how we should engage learners and each other as a community to make things better for all of us. Thank you, Felix. Really appreciate all this wonderful sharing from you, and really appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Dike Felix, lecturer of University of Nigeria and a researcher right now at Fudan University, Shanghai, China. Thank you, Felix. We look forward to talking to you again, and have a wonderful time in Shanghai, and look forward to meeting you real soon.
Thank you, Alisa. Have a wonderful time too.
Thank you, Felix.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode at SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1 on the topic of how COVID-19 transformed the education industry. We trust that the podcast episode has provided a whole lot of value and insights to everyone who tuned in. If you enjoyed today's episode and you love the vision and mission of SkyGems Academy, can you please help us to convince others to tune in to SkyGems Academy Podcast too? Please kindly subscribe to SkyGems Academy Podcast. Please also kindly leave a quick review and rate SkyGems Academy Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor.fm, Breaker, and various SkyGems Academy's podcast channels. That would mean the world to us, so thank you so much for your support. Visit our website at www.skygemsacademy.com to find out more about our distinguished speakers and about SkyGems Academy. We appreciate you and your continuous support. Thank you for tuning in to SkyGems Academy Podcast. High five and peace out!